An additional tool to move data between machines is SCP, or Secure Copy. SCP is a tool that I generally use to move data between two machines that I have user accounts on. There's a lot similar to curl's functionality. It has a shorter syntax. I find it somewhat easier to use. For large files, it could be faster to use SCP. The use case here is that you have some work that happens on a remote machine. You're processing large chunks of data, you run some models, and then the results you may want to retrieve from the remote machine to your local machine to, I don't know, make a plot. Or you may need to get some additional data or configuration files from your local machine that you tested on a smaller test set to the remote machine. The syntax for SCP is similar to the CP or copy syntax. You have SCP, some options, one or more sources, and then a target. The syntax then expands to SCP. You have an option for a username at some host, colon, and then you give the path. If you're working locally and you want to transmit something from your current machine to a remote machine, you can forget about all of this optional stuff that's in square brackets. You just need to give it the path to the file. If you're already in the directory that contains the file, you just need to give it file1. If you have multiple files, you can either use wildcards if they share a common part of the file name, or you can all list them here. SCP will look for the last argument as the target. There's optional to give it a username at some host, colon, and then the path to whatever the file should be called there. If you have multiple files, this should be a directory. So commonly, one of these doesn't have user and host specified. You either copy from local to remote, or from remote you're retrieving something to local. Keep in mind that remote and local don't matter. All that matters for the order is what is your source, which should come first, and what is your target, which should come next. As an example, here we are in my home directory in a subdirectory SCP test. I type ls, there's nothing in there right now. So now I say SCP, my username at catla.gisize.alaska.edu. And then I go and want to retrieve the image that we previously looked at, which lives in home username Simonov_pgd.png. My target here, do not forget that this is dot. This dot is important. It tells SCP to copy to the current directory. Remember, in the Unix overview where we talked about special directories, dot is an important symbol. If you forget that, this is not going to work. SCP is going to tell you it expects a target. So this dot is critical. I'm then being asked for a password again, and then I see some progress bar that is downloading the very small file at high rates. And then if I hit ls, it shows up locally. It's been copied over. If I use graphics viewing program on the command line, if that is installed, EOG, I can now say Simonov_pgd.png, and now it's being displayed locally. Maybe you remember the remote display looked a little bit different. If you run this on OpenSARLab terminal emulator, EOG is not installed. You have that file. You could look at it either by double-clicking on it in the file browser or by loading it into your Jupyter notebook. Let's use another example. Here we are in the SCP test directory. We now have a hello-world.sh, some shell script, and a tar.gz file, and we'll talk about archive files later. Now I copy hello world and tiltlogs.tar.gz to the remote machine, catla.gisize.alaska.edu, into my home directory under scp_test. That is a directory that exists already. Again, being asked for my password. First file is being transferred. It's very small. Second file is being transferred. It's a lot larger, but still we're on the local network, so that goes very quickly. I can also say scp**, copy everything that is in the current directory. And all of that looks very similar, except the transfer rates are slightly different. It copies everything over that is in the current directory, which is only those 2 files. Now I'm going to that remote machine. I use SSH to log in there with my username. I'm again asked for a password. I end up in my home directory, tilde, where I have the subdirectory scp_t. I type ls, and those 2 files live there now. And if I say cat hello world _sh, concatenate this to the output, I see the contents of this hello world script that's now living on the remote machine.